وقفت كده هيسمعوني كويس؟ Okay. صباح الخير يا مصر. I'm so honored and excited to be here today to present at this conference. I'd really like to thank Dr. Wael and Dr. Mohamed for the invitation. انتوا سامعيني ولا اجيب ميكروفون تاني؟ كويس. Okay, hey. Okay. This is actually my second experience in medicine in Egypt. My first was 25 years ago. I was an undergraduate at the University of Minnesota getting ready to start medical school. And I did a summer rotation here with Dr. Zahira Abdin, the legendary Dr. Zahira Abdin, who was, as you all know, I hope, a pioneer in rheumatic heart disease. I worked with her in Do'i at the Child Health Institute and at Abu Rish Hospital, and it really...
if you please, Dr. Marwa, your voice is so loud.
It's not?
Your voice.
Too loud?
No, too low.
Too low?
Yes, this is okay.
Okay, I'll stand closer to the microphone. Should I start all over? Okay. Okay. Should I start all over, or everybody heard me? I keep going. Okay. And so I'm excited to be here today. I will be presenting on the impact of social media on adolescent mental health. Dr. Kraft and I were able to attend the endocrinology workshop yesterday, and I was so excited to really be able to hear about some of the thoughts that Egypt has on the mental health of our youth and our adolescents. I think that we are seeing a lot more mental health happening post-COVID in the United States, much more depression, much more anxiety, unfortunately a lot of suicidal thoughts and things like that. I don't know if that has impacted Egypt as much post-COVID, but it's definitely something we're looking into, and social media being a relatively newer phenomenon for us, my generation at least, can definitely impact that. So come along with me and we will talk about some of the current research and data that's out there. The objectives of my presentation are to recognize the risks of social media to adolescent mental health and to identify strategies to help mitigate some of those effects. I have no financial disclosures to report. The Pew Research Foundation is a nonpartisan think tank in the United States. They use public opinion polling, demographic research, and media content to really get an idea of what the issues are and attitudes and trends that are shaping the world, and in particular the United States. And in 2018, they actually polled adolescents and asked them, how do you feel about social media and how do you feel that it impacts your mental health? The results were pretty surprising. About 45% said, we don't think it's either positive or negative. About 30% said, we think social media has mainly a positive impact on our mental health. We feel that it helps us connect with family and friends. It helps us find news and information. It helps us meet others with similar interests. And it helps us entertained and keeps us upbeat. Surprisingly, though, 24% were able to recognize that they felt that social media did not have a positive impact and, in fact, had a negative one. They thought that there was bullying, spreading of rumors, that it harmed relationships, there was a lack of in-person content, there were unrealistic views of others' lives, caused distraction and addiction, which I'm not going to talk about in this talk, but it's definitely something that deserves further research, and that there was peer pressure involved with social media. In the United States in 2018, the most popular online platforms were YouTube, Instagram, and Snapchat. 95% of adolescents identified as having a smartphone, and 45% said that they are online almost constantly. Now, I'm just going to take a second to give an anecdotal example. أنا جيت مصر المرة دي مع ولادي وابن يوسف عنده 13 سنة. فقابل بنت خالتي ابنها في خلال ثواني They were exchanging Snapchat IDs and Instagram IDs. So I don't think that this data is unique to the United States. Okay, so here's the million-dollar question. Does social media cause depression? There is definitely mounting evidence that suggests that there is a link between social media and depression among teens and young adults. In fact, there were several studies that found reported depression with increased use of social media. Why? Many factors, and we're going to spend a few minutes talking about them. Okay, there is an isolation or a perceived isolation that comes from social media. The current adolescents are spending less time connecting with their peers face-to-face and spending more time connecting with their peers electronically. Those of my generation know that those in-person interactions are very emotionally satisfying. They are beneficial. You have reciprocity that comes from empathy and reading social cues. Those things are missing in social media. And so there is that missing context when you're not meeting in person. Interestingly, though, there was a study that suggested that girls who are highly social outside of social media and are highly social on social media are actually doing great. They don't have the depressive symptoms that the rest of the population shows. And so really it's the balance between in-person and over social media that seems to be the golden ticket. Another impact of social media is adolescents take a hit on their self-esteem. There is this perfect image that needs to be curated on social media. People very rarely post the bad and the ugly. And in fact, there have been multiple studies that have demonstrated that Instagram actually is the platform that most leads young adult people to report feeling anxiety, depression, and concerns about body image. Now, unfortunately, I didn't have enough time today to really delve into the idea of eating disorders and social media, but there is a whole field of research on that as well. Not that they cause social media, but if there's insecurity about weight or insecurity about body image, social media can definitely fuel that concern. Okay, the whole idea of self-doubt. So Stanford University is arguably one of the top universities in the world. These kids are academically, they are athletically talented, they're academically at the top of the food chain and the pyramid. They usually have very wonderful extracurriculars, and they found several years ago that there was a slew of suicides with young adults that on paper, on social media, were perfect. They were perfect. And so they coined this term duck syndrome, because you see a duck, it glides across the water effortlessly, but underneath, those little feet are paddling like crazy to stay afloat. And they felt that duck syndrome really did a good job describing these young adults who from the outside looked amazing, but behind the digital curtain were desperately working to try to keep up their image. Kids view social media through the lens of their own lives. If they're struggling to stay on top of things or suffering from low self-esteem, they're more likely to interpret images of peers having fun as confirmation that they're doing badly compared to their friends. Okay, and this is a no-brainer. If you're going to spend the whole day on your phone, you are less likely to have healthy activity. And by healthy activity, I don't even necessarily mean sports, which of course are important. I'm talking about any kind of activity that'll boost self-esteem and confidence, because truly, self-esteem and confidence in a child are some of the most protective factors they can have in having robust mental health. So the idea of learning a new skill, the idea of developing a new hobby or a talent, generating a sense of accomplishment, working hard, and seeing things come out the other end, even in spite of a struggle, those are incredibly formative to an adolescent's psyche. That's not happening when they're going back and forth from Instagram to Snapchat to TikTok. Okay. Again, if you're spending all day on social media, you cannot have a fixed amount of time that you are doing anything else. You have disrupted concentration, you're toggling between different apps, so there's a frustration that comes from homework used to take an hour, now it's taking 3 hours. Well, it's taking 3 hours because you're checking your phone every 5 minutes to see how many people liked your post. So there's poorer concentration, constant interruption, and less retention academically. And really, I think this deserves its own talk, which is sleep deprivation that really comes from being on social media. There is a bounty of data out there about social media's impact on sleep. We know that the phone itself, the blue light decreases melatonin production. We know that adolescents need between 9 and 11 hours of sleep. We also know that between 1991 and 2015, 57% more US adolescents were considered sleep deprived, which means less than 7 hours of sleep at night. And there was actually a 22% increase between 2012 and 2015. A 2017 study showed that 60% of adolescents were looking at their phones in the last hour before sleep. And of those 60%, they received an hour less sleep than their peers who don't use their phones before bed, and they were more likely to sleep poorly, they were more likely to sleep less than they should, and they were more than twice as likely to suffer from daytime sleepiness. Okay. So you might be asking yourself, well, what about the kids that watch TV before they go to bed? Or what about the kids that are, out with their friends late or reading a book before bed? Social media and smartphone use is really the only thing that has been proven to impact sleep. In fact, adolescents who read books and magazines are less sleep deprived. Adolescents who are exercising or having social interactions actually get more sleep, and even watching TV before bed has not been shown to impact sleep among adolescents. They don't have trouble falling asleep. And I don't have to, this is a group of pediatricians, I don't have to remind all of you the negative outcomes of sleep deprivation. Susceptibility to illness, weight loss, high blood pressure, impacts reasoning, thinking, impacts mood. We know that sleep is critically important for emotional and brain development and rest. Okay, so we're going to spend a few minutes talking about an article that the Wall Street Journal in the United States put out a few years ago. It was an expose that was published and not disputed by Facebook. Facebook is the company that owns Instagram. Excuse me, I don't know how they were leaked internal files from meetings in Facebook. And one of their slides in 2017 said, "We make body image issues worse for 1 in 3 teenage girls." Another slide by Facebook said teenagers blamed Instagram for increased levels of anxiety and depression. So they knew all of this. In 2020, their research found that 32% of teenage girls said that when they felt bad about their bodies, Instagram made them feel worse. And 6% of US users and 13% of UK adolescent users said that they had a desire to kill themselves, which was traced to Instagram. I think the thing that's the most appalling is that Instagram had focus groups, online surveys, and studies over a number of years. They were fully aware of all of this data, but as stated very eloquently, Instagram's own research is telling that a large number of teen Instagram users say the service makes them feel worse about themselves, but the company just wants to make sure they keep coming back, puts profit before harm. It's this hook of getting people back again and again. What is the selfie? The selfie, we're all standing around taking pictures of ourselves. The average woman takes 7 pictures for one that they can post on social media. You may have heard of the very famous Kim Kardashian. She says it takes 15 to 20 shots to get one perfect social media picture. The American Academy of Facial, Plastic, and Reconstructive Surgeons said that 42% of surgeons were asked to perform a cosmetic procedure to improve the way a person looks on a selfie or a picture on social media. I find that shocking. This is a perfect example of a very lovely young lady who was able to use filters, whether it was on Snapchat and Instagram. She changed her hair color, she changed her hair length, she changed her eyebrow color, she changed her facial color, she changed her eye color, her cheekbones, her lips, her nose shape, her entire body shape, and her skin color. She was able to do all of that using these filters. The filters can take out pimples, they can change facial structure, they can increase your height, they can change your body shape, and change your eye or hair color. When you look at yourself in the mirror and then you see yourself on social media, which, even though she's very lovely, she's going to be disappointed when she actually sees her real self. There's no way the other one is attainable. I'm running out of time. Okay, I'm going to go fast. Comparison is the thief of joy, said Theodore Roosevelt, the past president of the United States. There are studies that have shown decreased self-esteem, decreased life satisfaction by viewing selfies, decreased weight satisfaction. I would be remiss not to discuss the impact of COVID on social media. There was a meta-analysis in 2021 by JAMP, Journal of the American Medical Association. No shocker, it showed that adolescents obviously used much more social media during COVID. General screen time was higher, that there was more digital media addiction during the pandemic, and overall that addiction led to less well-being. So adolescents who were at risk for mental health problems definitely faced a little bit of a struggle. However, the interesting part of this meta-analysis showed that among some adolescents, actually, if they were sharing one-to-one communication with one other friend, or they were sharing funny stories or funny videos or funny cartoons, it actually decreased the loneliness and stress during COVID-19 when we were all isolating at home. 2 more slides and then I'll let you all go. How do we minimize negative effects? We're all pediatricians in the room, really focusing on balance. Encourage your patients, encourage your children to socialize offline. I'll make it really quick, I promise. Focus on activities that build identity and self-confidence. Turn off the notifications. Snapchat notifies you when there's a new snap. Instagram will notify you when there's a new like. Tell them to turn off those notifications if they're on the phone doing their homework. Look out for girls that have high, or boys either, have a high risk of depression. Keep an eye on them. Encourage teenagers to be honest with themselves about how time spent on social media makes them feel, and set the example. I think of anything else we can do, we have to set the example. Make dinner a phone-free time. Everybody puts their phone on the dinner. Find a weekend that you are not using social media. The whole family can take a break. The kids are going to fight you. They're going to resist you. But if you say, I'm doing it too, it suddenly becomes a family activity. No phones before bed. Say goodbye to your phone, put it in the kitchen. It's not going in the room with you, okay? It's not a single conversation to just take the phone away. We have to remember that social media and the visual image plays a very, very powerful role. Many of our kids don't even know life before social media. These are very real images, a very real world to them. So we really can't minimize it. The things that happen online to them are absolutely reality. Listen to them when they're talking to you. Hear what they have to say. Don't dismiss it. Really try to understand it. And then finally, if you sit down with them and ask them, what do you think your friends may have cropped out of their image? Do you think people are what they appear to be online? What's the purpose of the photo? Why do you like getting a like? What is the reason that you like getting a like? And how does social media affect your mood? I'd like to thank you all. This is me 25 years ago with Dr. Zahira Abdeen, and that's the Child Health Institute where I did my internship. Thank you all for your time and attention.